Imagine a universe where every star is dying, every world is crumbling into dust, and humanity's last hope lies buried deep within the unknown reaches of space. This is not just another war, it's the end of everything. Billions lost, civilizations extinguished, and only a handful of survivors remain, adrift in a collapsing galaxy. Their mission? To find salvation before time runs out. But what they discover will change the very fabric of existence itself. Are you ready to embark on this journey across the edge of despair? Subscribe now and witness the ultimate battle for survival. The stars were dying one by one, like candles snuffed out by an invisible hand. Across the galaxy, entire systems collapsed into chaos as gravitational anomalies tore apart planets, moons, and even suns. At first, the signs were subtle. A minor shift in stellar orbits here, a rogue black hole there, but soon spiraled into something far more catastrophic. By the time humanity realized the scale of the disaster, it was already too late. The galactic war that had raged for centuries between rival factions became irrelevant when faced with extinction-level events consuming entire quadrants of space. For those who survived aboard scattered fleets of ships, hope felt like a relic of the past, buried beneath layers of grief and desperation. Yet amidst the devastation, rumors persisted, a whispered legend among navigators and astrophysicists alike. Somewhere beyond the veil, a theoretical boundary shrouded in mystery, lay a safe haven untouched by the collapse. Known only as Elysium, it existed as little more than myth, yet desperate times called for desperate measures. Captain Alira Voss, leader of the refugee fleet known as Exodus, made the decision to risk everything. Her crew would chart a course toward the uncharted regions of the cosmos, seeking refuge in a place no human had ever ventured before. What they didn't know was that the journey ahead would test them in ways unimaginable, forcing them to confront not only the harsh realities of survival, but also the darker corners of their own souls. Alira stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Istrius Dash, staring at the holographic map projected before her. The route to the Veil stretched long and treacherous, littered with hazards both natural and artificial. Gravitational storms warped space-time unpredictably, while remnants of ancient weapons still lingered in certain sectors, waiting to ensnare unsuspecting travelers. She knew the odds of success were slim, but retreat wasn't an option. Behind them lay only death, and ahead, well, perhaps madness. Still, she gave the order to engage engines, leading her people into the great unknown, knowing full well that failure meant the end of humanity itself. As the fleet prepared to leave the ruins of their home sector, the enormity of their situation weighed heavily on everyone aboard. The Exodus consisted of 37 vessels, ranging from battered military cruisers to repurposed cargo haulers crammed with refugees. Every ship carried remnants of once thriving colonies, scientists, engineers, families torn apart by loss, all clinging to life in the cold vacuum of space. Food supplies dwindled daily, oxygen recyclers strained under constant use, and morale hung by a thread thinner than spider silk. Yet despite these hardships, there remained a flicker of determination, fueled by stories of Elysium passed down through generations. Alira walked among her crew, observing the quiet resolve etched onto their weary faces. Children played in cramped corridors, their laughter a stark contrast to the somber expressions of adults. Engineers worked tirelessly to repair damaged systems, their hands moving with practiced precision even as exhaustion threatened to overwhelm them. Medical bays overflowed with patients suffering from malnutrition, radiation sickness, and psychological trauma. It was a grim reality, but one they had no choice but to endure. Each day brought new challenges, each night new fears, yet the dream of finding Elysium kept them going. On the third day of their journey, the fleet encountered its first major obstacle, a massive debris field left behind by the destruction of a nearby star system. Navigating through it required careful coordination and split-second decisions, as jagged fragments of planets and asteroids floated ominously in their path. One wrong move could mean catastrophic collisions, tearing ships apart and dooming thousands to a swift and merciless death. Alira ordered all vessels to maintain tight formation, relying on advanced sensors and manual piloting skills to guide them safely through the chaos. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional crackle of static over comms as pilots reported close calls. When they finally emerged on the other side, cheers erupted across the fleet, though tempered by the knowledge that this was merely the beginning of their perilous voyage. Days turned into weeks as the fleet traversed the outer rim of the galaxy, venturing farther from familiar territory than any human expedition ever had. Along the way, they encountered phenomena both beautiful and terrifying. Nebulae that shimmered like liquid fire, pulsars emitting rhythmic bursts of radiation, and rogue planets hurtling aimlessly through the void. Each discovery brought fleeting moments of wonder, but also stark reminders of how fragile their existence truly was. Without stable sources of energy or resources, survival depended on scavenging whatever they could find along the way. One such opportunity arose when sensors detected the wreckage of an old exploration vessel adrift near a dying red giant. Boarding parties ventured inside, braving malfunctioning gravity wells and toxic atmospheres to recover vital components. Among the spoils were fuel cells, medical supplies, and most importantly, data logs detailing observations of strange celestial patterns beyond the veil. These records hinted at anomalies consistent with descriptions of Elysium, reigniting whispers of hope among the crew. But the cost of acquisition proved steep. Several lives were lost during the operation, leaving scars that would never fully heal. Back aboard the Astrius Dash, Elira reviewed the recovered data alongside her science team. The information painted a picture of a region unlike anything they'd encountered before, characterized by unusual energy signatures and gravitational fluctuations that defied conventional physics. Some theorized it might be evidence of advanced alien technology, while others suggested it could be a natural phenomenon created by the collapse itself. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear. Reaching Elysium would require navigating some of the most dangerous and unpredictable conditions imaginable. As the captain studied the readings, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being drawn into something far greater than themselves, something that might hold answers to questions humanity had long forgotten to ask. Despite occasional victories, paranoia began to creep into the fleet's collective psyche. Supplies dwindled faster than anticipated, forcing rationing measures that sparked resentment among passengers. Some accused others of hoarding provisions. Fights broke out in cramped corridors, and tensions simmered just below the surface. Meanwhile, mysterious malfunctions plagued key systems across multiple ships, raising suspicions of sabotage. Was someone deliberately undermining their efforts? Or were external forces at play? Elira convened a council of leaders from each vessel to address the growing unrest. Together, they implemented stricter security protocols and assigned trusted personnel to oversee critical operations. Yet even as order was restored, an unsettling question lingered. If betrayal came from within, who could be trusted? And if danger lurked outside, how much longer could they endure without succumbing to despair? The weight of leadership bore down on her shoulders, heavier with each passing day. Every decision carried consequences. Every action rippled outward, affecting thousands of lives dependent on her guidance. Sleep eluded her, replaced by restless nights spent poring over reports and contingency plans. To make matters worse, strange occurrences began to plague the fleet. Crew members reported hearing disembodied voices whispering in languages they couldn't understand, while others claimed to see shadowy figures moving just beyond the edges of their vision. Engineers dismissed these accounts as stress-induced hallucinations, but the frequency and consistency of the reports gave Elira pause. Could it be possible that the collapse wasn't merely physical but also psychological, eroding the minds of those caught in its wake? She ordered increased monitoring of mental health, ensuring counselors were available around the clock, yet doubts lingered in her mind. If the collapse affected not only the universe but also human perception, how could they trust anything, not even their own senses? Just as internal strife threatened to tear the fleet apart, an unexpected encounter changed everything. While navigating a dense asteroid field, the Astrius detected faint signals emanating from one particularly large rock. Closer inspection revealed it to be hollow, an abandoned mining station converted into a makeshift sanctuary. Inside, They found evidence of recent habitation, half-eaten meals, discarded tools, and hastily scrawled notes warning of impending doom. Whoever had lived there clearly fled in haste, leaving behind clues about what drove them away. Exploring deeper, the crew uncovered a hidden chamber containing advanced technology unlike anything they'd seen before. Devices capable of manipulating gravity, generating limitless energy, and even altering biological structures hinted at knowledge far beyond human understanding. But alongside these marvels lay ominous signs. A series of cryptic messages etched into walls, speaking of the reckoning and those who watch. As they debated whether to take the tech or leave it untouched, alarms blared throughout the station, signaling an incoming threat. What emerged from the shadows defied comprehension. Massive, biomechanical creatures swarmed the station, their forms blending organic flesh with metallic exoskeletons. They moved with eerie precision, targeting intruders with relentless efficiency. The crew fought back valiantly, using improvised weapons and exploiting weaknesses exposed during combat. But for every creature destroyed, two more seemed to appear, driving the humans steadily backward until retreat became inevitable. In the chaos, Elira made a fateful decision. Ordering her team to evacuate, she activated the station's self-destruct sequence, hoping to buy time for the fleet to escape. As explosions rocked the structure, she sprinted toward the exit, heart pounding in her chest. Behind her, the creatures screeched in fury, their movements growing more erratic as flames consumed the station. Reaching the airlock, she leapt aboard the shuttle just as the final blast wave sent debris hurtling into space. Panting, she stared out the viewport as the station disintegrated, taking the creatures and the secrets it held with it. The fleet regrouped hours later, shaken but alive. Though they had escaped immediate danger, the encounter raised troubling questions. What were those creatures? Where had they come from? And most importantly, what did they want? Elira knew they couldn't afford to dwell on these mysteries for long. The collapse continued unabated, devouring stars and worlds with increasing speed. Time was running out, and the closer they drew to the veil, the more apparent it became that their journey was far from over. As the fleet resumed its course, Elira gazed at the stars through the viewport, her mind racing with possibilities. Beyond the veil lay answers, or perhaps only more questions. Either way, she vowed to press forward, no matter the cost. Humanity's survival depended on it. And so, the Exodus sailed onward, carrying the hopes and dreams of a dying species into the vast, unforgiving expanse of the cosmos. The encounter with the biomechanical creatures left an indelible mark on the fleet, both physically and psychologically. Repairs were underway to mend the damage inflicted during their hasty retreat, but the emotional toll was harder to quantify. Engineers worked tirelessly to patch hull breaches and recalibrate systems, while medics treated the wounded and comforted those traumatized by the attack. Yet beneath the surface of activity, a pervasive sense of unease lingered. The creatures had been unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, part machine, part organism, and seemingly driven by an intelligence beyond comprehension. Their presence raised unsettling possibilities. Were they remnants of an ancient civilization destroyed by the collapse? Or harbingers of something far worse lurking ahead? Elira convened another meeting with her senior officers, this time focusing not just on logistics, but also on morale. She recognized that fear could spread faster than any physical threat, corroding trust and discipline within the fleet. To combat this, she ordered the dissemination of information about the creatures, ensuring transparency even as uncertainty loomed large. Scientists analyzed fragments of the station's technology salvaged before its destruction, hoping to glean insights into the nature of their adversaries. Meanwhile, security teams implemented new protocols to prepare for potential future encounters. Every precaution was taken, yet the question remained: how could they fight an enemy they barely understood? As the days passed, whispers of dissent began to circulate once more. Some crew members questioned whether pursuing Elysium was worth the risks, pointing to the growing list of dangers they faced along the way. Others argued that turning back would be tantamount to surrender, condemning them to certain death amidst the collapsing stars. Elira listened to these debates silently, weighing the arguments in her mind. Ultimately, she knew there was no turning back, Not now, not when they had come so far. With renewed determination, she addressed the fleet, reminding them of their shared purpose and urging them to persevere despite the odds. The fleet's journey took a turn toward the surreal as they entered a region of space unlike any they had seen before. Here, the laws of physics appeared to bend and warp unpredictably. Stars flickered like dying embers, their light distorted by gravitational anomalies that twisted spacetime itself. Entire nebulae seemed alive, pulsating with colors that shifted rhythmically, as though breathing. It was beautiful and deeply unsettling. Sensors struggled to make sense of the environment, often providing conflicting data that left navigators scratching their heads in frustration. Pilots relied increasingly on intuition and experience, trusting their instincts over unreliable instruments. One such anomaly nearly proved fatal. A sudden gravitational surge pulled several ships off course, dragging them toward what appeared to be a black hole, but closer inspection revealed it to be something else entirely. Instead of collapsing inward, the singularity radiated outward, emitting waves of energy that destabilized nearby vessels. Emergency maneuvers saved most of the fleet, but one cargo hauler wasn't so lucky. Caught in the anomaly's grip, it disintegrated in seconds, leaving behind only debris and echoes of panicked distress calls. The loss sent shockwaves through the fleet, reigniting fears of their own mortality. Despite the tragedy, scientists aboard the Astrius seized the opportunity to study the phenomenon. They hypothesized that it might represent a transitional phase in the galaxy's collapse, a stage where matter and energy became interchangeable, blurring the boundaries between creation and destruction. If true, it suggested that the collapse wasn't merely random chaos, but part of a larger process governed by forces humanity had yet to fully grasp. For some, this realization brought a measure of solace. Perhaps the universe wasn't indifferent after all, but instead undergoing a transformation whose purpose remained obscured. For others, it only deepened the mystery, raising existential questions about humanity's place within such a grand design. Amidst the chaos of navigating warped spacetime, the fleet stumbled upon another relic of the past, a derelict colony ship drifting aimlessly through the void. Unlike the mining station, this vessel bore signs of having been abandoned long ago, its hull scarred by micrometeorite impacts and radiation exposure. Initial scans detected faint power signatures emanating from deep within the ship, prompting a boarding party to investigate. What they found defied belief. Cryogenic pods containing dozens of human bodies preserved in stasis, their life signs weak but detectable. The discovery sparked heated debate among the crew. Some argued that reviving the colonists could bolster their numbers and provide much-needed expertise, given the dire circumstances. Others voiced concerns about resource allocation, warning that adding more mouths to feed might strain their already fragile infrastructure to the breaking point. Alira sided with caution, ordering the pods transported to the Astrius for further analysis. Medical teams worked around the clock to stabilize the colonists, carefully monitoring their vitals as they gradually brought them out of stasis. When the first of the colonists regained consciousness, they spoke of a mission launched centuries earlier to establish a new settlement beyond the known galaxy. Their destination had been lost to time, erased by corrupted navigation logs and equipment failures. Overwhelmed by grief and confusion, they struggled to comprehend the state of the universe they had awakened to, a cosmos teetering on the brink of annihilation. Slowly, however, they began to adapt, sharing stories of their original journey and offering valuable insights into survival strategies honed over generations. Though their arrival complicated matters, it also provided a glimmer of hope, reminding everyone aboard that resilience could take many forms. With the addition of the revived colonists, tensions within the fleet reached a boiling point. Resources stretched thinner than ever, forcing difficult decisions about rationing and prioritization. Arguments erupted frequently, fueled by exhaustion and frustration. Even the promise of Elysium couldn't entirely quell the unrest, as doubts about its existence grew louder. Was it truly a sanctuary, or merely a desperate fantasy conjured up to sustain morale? Alira did her best to maintain order, but cracks began to form in the unity that had held the fleet together thus far. To address the growing divide, she organized a series of town hall meetings, inviting representatives from every ship to voice their concerns openly. These gatherings revealed a wide spectrum of opinions, ranging from unwavering optimism to outright despair. Some advocated doubling down on their search for Elysium, believing it represented their only chance at salvation. Others proposed abandoning the quest altogether, suggesting they focus instead on finding temporary refuges along the way. Still others floated radical ideas, such as attempting to harness the mysterious technologies discovered earlier in hopes of reversing the collapse itself. Through it all, Alira maintained a steady demeanor, listening patiently to each perspective before offering her own. She acknowledged the validity of their fears while emphasizing the importance of perseverance. "We've come too far to give up now," she declared during one particularly heated session. "Every challenge we face brings us closer to understanding the truth, not just about Elysium, but about ourselves. Together, we can overcome anything." Her words resonated with many, though skepticism persisted among those who felt disillusioned by the mounting hardships. As the fleet pushed deeper into uncharted territory, strange phenomena continued to manifest around them. Time dilation effects caused days to stretch into weeks, leaving crews disoriented and fatigued. Communication signals became garbled, requiring technicians to develop creative solutions to maintain contact between ships. At times, entire vessels disappeared from sensors momentarily, only to reappear moments later in slightly altered positions. These distortions tested the limits of human endurance, pushing minds and bodies to their breaking points. Yet amid the chaos, moments of clarity emerged. During one particularly grueling stretch, a young astrophysicist named Kale made a groundbreaking discovery. Analyzing patterns in the gravitational anomalies, he identified a recurring sequence that hinted at deliberate manipulation rather than random chaos. Could it be possible that the collapse was not natural but engineered? If so, by whom or what? The implications sent shockwaves through the scientific community aboard the fleet, sparking renewed interest in deciphering the cryptic messages recovered from the mining station. Alira tasked Kale with assembling a team to pursue this line of inquiry further, hoping it might yield clues about Elysium's location, or perhaps even explain the origins of the biomechanical creatures. Working tirelessly, they cross-referenced data from multiple sources, piecing together fragments of knowledge like a cosmic puzzle. Slowly, a picture began to emerge, one that challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe and their place within it. The breakthrough came unexpectedly, triggered by a seemingly innocuous observation. While reviewing sensor readings from a recent anomaly, Kale noticed a faint signal embedded within the noise, a repeating pattern consistent with artificial transmission. Excited by the possibility of communication, he rerouted resources to enhance reception capabilities, isolating the signal for closer examination. What they uncovered stunned everyone involved: a message, fragmented and distorted, but unmistakably intelligible. It spoke of a convergence, a meeting point where survivors of the collapse could unite under the guidance of an entity referred to only as the Architect. Though the message lacked specifics, it provided enough detail to refine their trajectory. Coordinates pointed toward a distant sector of space, marked by unusual energy fluctuations similar to those described in Legends of Elysium. Encouraged by this development, Alira ordered the fleet to adjust course accordingly, steering them toward what might finally prove to be their ultimate destination. Doubts still lingered, but the prospect of answers, even ambiguous ones, reinvigorated the crew's resolve. The final leg of their journey proved to be the most perilous yet. As they approached the designated coordinates, the fleet encountered increasingly hostile conditions. Massive electromagnetic storms disrupted navigation systems, forcing pilots to rely solely on visual cues and instinct. Swarms of microscopic drones attacked without warning, targeting critical systems and forcing engineers into a constant battle against cascading failures. Supplies dwindled to critical levels, prompting drastic measures such as recycling waste materials and rationing water to unsustainable extremes. Yet through sheer willpower and ingenuity, they persevered. Crew members banded together, pooling their skills and knowledge to overcome each obstacle. Acts of heroism became commonplace as individuals sacrificed personal comfort, and sometimes their lives, to ensure the fleet's survival. Stories of courage spread throughout the ships, inspiring others to rise above their fears and contribute however they could. In the darkest moments, these acts of selflessness served as reminders of humanity's capacity for greatness, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. Finally, after months of relentless struggle, the fleet arrived at the convergence point. Before them stretched a vast structure unlike anything they had ever seen. A colossal ring suspended in the void, glowing with an ethereal light that pulsed rhythmically. Surrounding it were remnants of countless civilizations, their ruins testament to eons of conflict and cooperation. Ships of alien design drifted lifelessly nearby, their hulls scorched and battered by battles fought long ago. It was simultaneously awe-inspiring and terrifying, a monument to both triumph and tragedy. Approaching cautiously, the fleet scanned the area for signs of hostility. None appeared, allowing them to dock safely within the ring's interior. Inside, they discovered a labyrinthine network of corridors and chambers, each filled with advanced technology and cryptic inscriptions. At the heart of the structure lay a central chamber dominated by a massive holographic display projecting images of galaxies, timelines, and equations beyond human comprehension. Standing before it was a figure cloaked in shimmering fabric, its features obscured by flowing folds. The figure introduced itself as the architect, explaining that it was an artificial intelligence created millennia ago to oversee the evolution of sentient species across the galaxy. When the collapse began, it had initiated a plan to preserve life by guiding survivors to this refuge, where they could rebuild and thrive. However, completing the plan required sacrifices, including the dismantling of certain technologies deemed too dangerous to coexist with organic life. The choice now rested with humanity: embrace a new beginning under the architect's guidance or reject its offer and forge their own path. Elira and her council deliberated long into the night, weighing the pros and cons of accepting the architect's terms. Ultimately, they decided to proceed cautiously, agreeing to collaborate temporarily while retaining autonomy over key decisions. Work began immediately to integrate human innovations with the architect's systems, creating a hybrid society designed to endure whatever challenges lay ahead. Though uncertainties remained, one thing was clear: humanity's story was far from over. As the fleet settled into their new home, Elira gazed out at the stars, reflecting on everything they had endured to reach this moment. Sacrifices had been made, losses suffered, but through it all, they had persevered. United by a shared vision of hope, they stood ready to face whatever the future held, together. The journey doesn't end here. Subscribe now to follow humanity's next chapter as they build a new world amidst the ruins of the old. Will they succeed, or will new dangers arise to threaten their fragile peace? Hit subscribe and stay tuned for more epic adventures.